Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. My wife's sister told her to train me like a dog. So for 12 weeks, I let them think it was working. Then I left a note on the kitchen counter and disappeared completely. The desperate 2 a.m. call started that same night, from my wife, then her sister. But I'd already moved on. Let me tell you exactly how it happened. 3 months ago, Whitney's older sister Denise moved back to town after her divorce. I was supportive about it. Her sister was going through a rough time, and I figured we'd help her get settled. That was my first mistake, thinking this was about helping her settle in. The night after Denise's first visit, Whitney came home from their girls' night different. Not dramatically different, just off somehow. The next morning, she looked at me across the kitchen and said something she'd never said before. "Brandon, did you remember to pick up the dry cleaning?" Not the words themselves. It was the tone, like a manager checking if an employee completed their assignment. "Yeah, it's in the closet," I said. She nodded, making a little note on her phone. I didn't think much of it then. The second girls' night lasted 4 hours. Whitney came home with a notebook full of notes. The next morning, she announced we needed to talk about division of labor. "My sister made a good point," she said. "We've never really formalized who does what." Formalized. Clear expectations. A system. By that afternoon, there was a chore chart on our refrigerator, color-coded, with my name in one column and hers in another. "It's just to get us organized," she said when she saw my face. I humored it. Her sister was freshly divorced and probably filling Whitney's head with anxiety. It would pass. It didn't pass. Week 3, the chore chart went from suggestion to requirement. Whitney added completion time expectations next to each task. When I folded laundry one evening, she came over and refolded everything while sighing dramatically. "There's a right way to do it," she explained. "I've been folding laundry for 32 years, Whitney. My sister says most men never learned proper household management. Your sister says." Those 3 words were becoming a pattern. Your sister says. My sister thinks. According to my sister. Week 4, Denise came over for dinner 3 times. On Thursday evening, I noticed them whispering in the kitchen while I cleaned up. They'd look at me, whisper some more, then laugh. Not mean laughter exactly. More like scientists observing an experiment. That weekend, Whitney presented me with a document titled Weekly Performance Review. "What is this?" I asked. "Just a way to track our household efficiency. We'll go over it together every Sunday." I stared at the paper. It had categories, ratings from 1 to 5, a comments section. "Whitney, what's going on with you?" "I'm just making sure we have systems in place." My sister says without clear systems, resentment builds. "We've been together 6 years. Have you been resenting me?" "No. This is preventative. She knows things, Brandon. She's been through a marriage. A failed marriage." Her face hardened. She tried to make it work. He couldn't handle her standards. I let it drop, but something cold settled in my chest. That same week, we hosted dinner for 2 other couples, friends we'd known for years. I was in the kitchen finishing up the main course when Whitney came in with her phone. "Timer's going off," she said. "The chicken should be done." "I know, I'm checking it now." She stood there watching me, holding up her phone, timing me. Our friends were in the living room 10 feet away. "Whitney, what are you doing?" "Just making sure we stay on schedule." Denise says timing is everything in household management. One of our friends, Kevin, appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay in here?" Whitney smiled brightly. "Perfect. Brandon's just finishing up. He's getting so much better at timing things properly." The way she said it, like I was a student who'd finally passed a test. Kevin looked at me with this confused expression. After they left that night, he texted me. "Dude, is Whitney okay?" She was acting weird. I didn't know how to respond. Week 5 brought the location tracking request. "I'd like you to share your location with me," Whitney said casually over breakfast. "Just so I know you're safe. I'm 32 years old. You don't need to track me." "It's not tracking. It's sharing. Couples do this." "We never did. Maybe we should have." "My sister says a relationship needs transparency." I refused. We had our first real argument. She cried and said I didn't respect her needs. While we argued, her phone buzzed. Denise calling. Whitney answered it right there, talked to her sister for 15 minutes while I sat there, then came back with renewed conviction. "Denise says if you have nothing to hide, this shouldn't be an issue. Tell Denise to mind her own business. She's trying to help us." Help us do what exactly? Whitney didn't have an answer for that. Week 6, she implemented a point system. Gold stars on the chore chart for completed tasks. Points deducted for attitude or insufficient effort. I'd come home from work to find my friends had texted asking if everything was okay. I'd been canceling plans to complete tasks on Whitney's timeline. Then she started monitoring my phone. Not overtly, just little questions. Who was I texting? What were my friends saying? Was I complaining about our private business? We went grocery shopping together on Saturday, something we used to enjoy. Whitney had a detailed list organized by aisle. When I grabbed a box of cereal that wasn't on the list, she removed it from the cart. That's not on the approved list. Approved list. We discussed weekly meal planning. This doesn't fit the plan. I just wanted cereal, Whitney. Impulse purchases are how budgets get ruined. My sister says disciplined shopping requires sticking to the list. An older woman in the aisle glanced at us, then quickly looked away. I put the cereal back. Felt like a child being corrected by a parent. We'd been splitting expenses equally for 6 years. Now I needed approval for cereal. In the car afterward, Whitney seemed pleased. That went well. We stayed on budget and on schedule. Denise will be proud of our progress. I didn't respond. I was too busy wondering who I was living with. Week 7, she introduced me to Trish, a friend of Denise's who apparently specialized in relationship management. The three of them staged an intervention in my own living room. Brandon, we asked you here tonight because we care about Whitney's happiness, Denise said. You asked me? This is my house. We've noticed resistance patterns in your behavior, Trish added, consulting a notepad. Resistance patterns? Who talks like that? Whitney touched my arm. They're just trying to help us communicate better. By ambushing me? The intervention lasted 90 minutes. They had a PowerPoint presentation. Slides about healthy relationship dynamics, which apparently meant one person set standards and the other met them. I sat there in my own home, being lectured by 3 women about how to be a better partner. Week 8 brought the punishment system. Whitney called them consequences, but let's be honest about what they were. Silent treatment for 24 hours if rules were broken. Locked doors. Withheld affection. I worked late one Tuesday without approval. Came home to find the bedroom door locked. I slept on the couch. The next morning, there was a detailed list of infractions on the kitchen counter. The weekend plans we'd made, canceled as a consequence. I called my brother that night. Something's really wrong, I told him, but I didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell someone your girlfriend treats you like a disobedient employee? Week 9, Whitney started filming me doing chores. She said it was evidence in case I ever claimed I did my share. She and Denise would review the footage together on Sundays, creating areas for improvement presentations. My mom asked if everything was okay when I canceled Sunday dinner for the 3rd week in a row. I told her things were fine. They weren't fine. My birthday came during week 9. I'd hoped maybe Whitney would ease up, remember who we used to be. Instead, she planned the entire day on a minute-by-minute schedule. Breakfast at 8. Gift opening at 9:15. Lunch at noon exactly. She gave me gifts that felt like corrections. A label maker for organizing my side of the closet. A day planner with motivational quotes. A book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Partners. These will help you level up, she said, smiling. My brother called to wish me happy birthday. Whitney monitored the call, later asking why I'd sounded upset. I wasn't upset during the call. I was numb. That evening, Denise came over for birthday cake. The two of them presented me with a certificate. Literal certificate, printed and framed. Most improved partner, week 9. I stared at it. This was my birthday gift. A participation trophy for completing chores. We're so proud of your progress, Denise said. Whitney squeezed my hand. You should be proud too. You're becoming the partner I always knew you could be. The partner she always knew I could be. As if the person I'd been for 6 years wasn't enough. Had never been enough. Would never be enough without their systems and training and constant correction. I thanked them. Put the certificate on the mantle. Started planning my exit. Week 10, Whitney presented me with a manual. 47 pages. Printed and bound. Household expectations and standards. I sat on the couch and read the entire thing. Toilet paper orientation. Proper greeting procedures when arriving home. Response time expectations for texts. Acceptable conversation topics. Rules for social media. Guidelines for friend interactions. Every page was insane. Every page was something I had to sign and acknowledge. This is comprehensive, I said carefully. We need to go through it together this weekend. Denise will be here to help clarify anything. I nodded, set the manual down, made a decision. There was a specific moment when I knew I had to leave. Really knew. Not just thinking about it, but accepting it as inevitable. It was a Tuesday evening during week 11. I was washing dishes, doing everything perfectly according to the manual specifications. Whitney and Denise were in the living room having wine, reviewing my progress charts. I heard Denise say, "He's really come around. You did it." I did, didn't I? Whitney's voice was proud. He fought it at first, but persistence pays off. Most women give up too early. They accept mediocrity instead of training it out. You stuck with it. It wasn't easy. There were times I thought he might leave. Denise laughed. Please. Men like Brandon don't leave. They're too comfortable, too risk-averse. They complain, but they stay because starting over is scary. They clinked glasses, toasting my transformation, celebrating their success in breaking me down and rebuilding me according to their specifications. I stood at that sink, hands in soapy water, and felt something crystallize inside me. They thought they knew me, thought they'd figured me out, thought I was too comfortable, too scared, too compliant to ever actually leave. They were wrong. I dried my hands, walked into the living room, smiled at them both. Dishes done. I'm heading to bed early. Big day tomorrow. Whitney beamed at me. Good night, honey. See, he's even managing his sleep schedule better. I went to the bedroom and started making lists. Bank accounts to separate. Lease terms to review. Moving companies to call. Friends who'd help me pack. I wasn't too comfortable. I wasn't too scared. I was just done. For the next 2 weeks, I was the perfect compliant partner. Every task completed perfectly. Every rule followed. Every expectation met. Whitney and Denise celebrated my transformation over lunch, convinced their program was working. I was actually preparing to leave. I opened a separate bank account, viewed apartments in Fremont, found one I liked and signed a lease. Talked to a lawyer about extricating myself from our shared living situation. We weren't married, which made things simpler. Our lease was in Whitney's name only. I'd been paying half, but nothing legally bound me there. I arranged for movers to come Friday morning at 9 a.m., after Whitney left for work. Thursday night, everything was normal. I cooked dinner. Whitney reviewed my cooking technique and made notes. Denise called to discuss the maintenance phase of my training. I went to bed early and packed one bag with essentials. Friday morning, I left for work at 7 a.m., just like always. At 9, the movers arrived. By noon, everything I owned was in my new apartment in Fremont. On the kitchen counter, weighted down by my house key, I left a note card. Only dogs get trained. I'm not a dog. I'm a partner, or I was supposed to be. You chose to see me as a project to manage instead of a person to love. You traded our partnership for a power trip your sister convinced you to take. I've spent 12 weeks being treated like a disobedient pet who needed correction, consequences, and training. I've been timed, tracked, filmed, reviewed, punished, and managed. Everything except respected. Your sister destroyed her own marriage with this exact behavior. Instead of learning from her mistakes, you decided to repeat them. That was your choice. I'm house hunting for my new life. Actually, I already found it. I'm moved out. Everything you need to know, the lease is in your name. My share of this month's rent is on the counter. I've removed my name from all shared utilities. Do not contact me. Do not show up at my work. Do not send your sister or her friends. We're done. You wanted a dog to train. Go adopt one. Brandon. Whitney got home at 6 p.m. to an empty apartment. I know because my phone, the new one with a new number, started getting messages from mutual friends around 6:30. She'd found the note. According to my friend Jake, who heard it from his girlfriend who heard it from Whitney, this is what happened. She walked in calling my name. Noticed immediately that something was off. Too quiet. Too empty. She went to the bedroom. My closet was bare. Bathroom. My toiletries gone. Office. My desk removed. Every room she entered had less in it than before. She ran back to the kitchen and found the note. Read it once. Didn't process it. Read it again. Started shaking. Grabbed her phone and called my number. Disconnected message. Called again. Same result. That's when she started screaming. The neighbor knocked on the door asking if everything was okay. Whitney couldn't form words. Just held up the note. The neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, read it and said quietly, "Oh, honey," and that's when Whitney collapsed. Mrs. Patterson called Denise. By 8 p.m., Both of them were sitting in that empty apartment trying to comprehend what had happened. The first call came at 7:15. My old number. It went to a disconnected message. She tried my work email. Automated response. I'd had IT filter her address that afternoon. By 8 p.m., Denise had arrived. I heard later they spent hours trying to figure out where I'd gone. Called my work, but security wouldn't confirm anything. Drove to my parents' house, but I wasn't there and my parents were confused about what was happening. The desperate calls started around 2 a.m. Whitney called everyone in her phone trying to find me. By 2:47, Denise was calling my parents demanding information. My father told her, "You did this. Leave my son alone," and hung up. Saturday, Whitney showed up at my workplace. Security turned her away. She discovered I'd requested mail forwarding but hadn't left a forwarding address. All my social media accounts had blocked her. By Sunday, reality was setting in. My name was off the lease, off the utilities. The bank account had been separated weeks ago. I'd planned everything while she thought she was training me into compliance. Then came the manipulation attempts. First, tears. Long voicemails to my old number that never got delivered. Emails to my work address that got filtered. Letters to my parents' house that came back unopened. Messages through mutual friends who all declined to play messenger. "I made a mistake. Please just talk to me," she said through every channel she could find. When tears didn't work, anger. Voicemails about how I'd abandoned her. Social media posts about men who can't handle strong women. Denise encouraging her, telling her she was better off without me. But Whitney didn't want to be better off. She wanted me back. Then guilt. Think of all we built together. I was just trying to make us stronger. My sister only wanted to help us. Letters delivered to my office that I returned unread. Then bargaining. "I'll stop all the systems, I promise. I see now that I went too far. Can we just talk? 5 minutes?" Through mutual friends, she offered couples counseling. Through my mother, she offered to move away from her sister. I sent one message through my lawyer. Communication stops immediately or I file a restraining order. That message broke something in her. Amy told me later that Whitney had a breakdown at work the day after receiving it. Locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. Her boss sent her home. She called in sick for 3 days. When she came back, she was different. Quieter. The confident woman who'd been managing me was gone. In her place was someone who jumped every time a phone rang, hoping it was me. It never was. Her coworkers tried to be supportive, but what could they say? The story had gotten around. Whitney had told a few people her version at first, painting me as immature and unable to handle a strong woman. But then someone asked to see the manual. The 47-page manual. Whitney showed them. The mood changed instantly. People realized what had actually been happening. One coworker, a woman named Sarah, pulled Amy aside. "That's not relationship advice. That's how you train a pet." No wonder he left. The legal separation paperwork arrived at her apartment 2 weeks after I left. I wanted nothing except what I'd already taken. Clean break. No drama. Just done. That's when she turned on Denise. A mutual friend told me about the fight. Whitney confronted her sister about the advice. Denise got defensive. "I was trying to help you not end up like me." "I did end up like you," Whitney shouted. "Alone. You weren't even married. This doesn't count. 6 years together counts. A home together counts." Denise left. Over the next few weeks, her support network evaporated. Trish stopped returning calls. Gloria was suddenly too busy. Denise reduced contact to occasional check-ins, then moved to Portland 3 months later. She couldn't face being in the same city where everyone knew her role in destroying her sister's relationship. By month 3, Whitney tried dating. A coworker set her up with his friend. Nice guy, stable job, seemed interested. They went to dinner in Capitol Hill. He asked about her last relationship. She tried to keep it vague. "It just didn't work out." "How long were you together?" 6 years. "Wow, that's serious. What happened?" She couldn't explain it. How do you tell someone you trained your partner like a dog until he disappeared? She mumbled something about growing apart. The date was fine. He texted her afterward. She never responded. Because sitting across from him, she kept comparing him to me. The way I used to make her laugh. The way I remembered how she took her coffee. The way I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout on bad days. All the things she'd taken for granted while she was busy trying to improve me. She went on 2 more dates over the next month. Both ended the same way. Her realizing that what she'd lost wasn't replaceable. That finding someone else wouldn't fix the hole she'd created. Whitney had to move to a cheaper studio apartment in Northgate. The place we'd shared was too expensive on her single income. She had to find a roommate situation, downsize her life significantly. 6 months later, I ran into Whitney's co-worker Amy at Volunteer Park. I was there for a woodworking class nearby. Brandon, you look great. Thanks, Amy. How are you? Good. Listen, this is random, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Whitney told us at work what happened. At first, she painted you as the bad guy, but eventually the truth came out. What truth? That she and her sister turned your relationship into some kind of dominance experiment. That you weren't being dramatic, you were being treated like garbage. I wish one of us had said something, but we didn't know how bad it was. I appreciate that. How is she? Struggling. Money's tight. She's pretty isolated. Her sister moved to Portland, and they don't talk. She brings you up sometimes with this look like she can't believe she screwed it up so badly. That's unfortunate. I hope she figures things out. You're being gracious. She's in therapy now, at least. Dealing with control issues. Good. Everyone deserves to work on themselves. I just couldn't be her practice subject anymore. Amy laughed. Fair enough. You look happy. You seeing anyone? Casually. Taking my time. Turns out I like not being on a schedule. As Amy walked away, I sat on the bench overlooking the city. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt peaceful. The first month after leaving had been harder than I'd expected. Not because I missed Whitney. I missed who she used to be. The woman I'd fallen in love with 6 years ago. The one who laughed easily and trusted me and didn't need her sister's approval for everything. That woman was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed the way I remembered. Maybe I'd idealized her. Or maybe Denise really had poisoned something good. I spent a lot of time in my new apartment just sitting in silence, appreciating the absence of tension. No one was going to walk in and check if I'd completed my tasks. No one was timing me. No one was filming me for evidence of insufficient effort. My friend Kevin came over one night with beer. We sat on my balcony, and he finally asked what had happened. I told him everything. The chore charts, the performance reviews, the manual. He listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Man, I knew something was wrong. At that dinner party, Whitney was acting like your supervisor. But I didn't realize how bad it was. Why didn't you say something?" Because it crept up slowly. By the time I realized how insane it had gotten, I was already neck deep in it. You did the right thing leaving. I know. But it's weird, you know? 6 years together. Gone. It was already gone, Brandon. You just acknowledged it. He was right. The relationship had died somewhere between week 3 and week 10. I'd just been living with its corpse for a while. Whitney had wanted to train me into being something I already was. A responsible, contributing partner. The irony was that treating me like I wasn't those things guaranteed I'd leave. My new apartment in Fremont was clean and quiet. Decorated how I liked. No chore charts. No tracking systems. No performance reviews. I had friends over regularly without asking permission. I'd been promoted at work because my performance improved without the constant stress. I'd taken up woodworking again, a hobby I'd abandoned during the training months. I was closer with my family. I dated casually with no pressure. I came home without anxiety. My parents invited me over for Sunday dinner about 2 months after I left. My mom made my favorite meal. Halfway through, my dad cleared his throat. "We need to talk about what happened." I set down my fork. "Okay. Whitney's mother called your mother last week." My mom nodded. She wanted to know if there was any chance you'd talk to Whitney. Apparently Whitney's not doing well. "That's not my problem anymore." "We know," my dad said quickly. "We told her that. But we want you to know, we saw what was happening. Toward the end, when you'd cancel plans or seem stressed, your mother and I talked about it. We almost said something," my mom added. "But we didn't know how, without seeming like we were interfering." "What would you have said?" My dad leaned forward. "That the way she was treating you wasn't normal. That her sister seemed to be running your relationship. That you looked miserable." "I was miserable. We know, son, and we're proud of you for leaving. It takes courage to walk away from something you've invested years in." My mom reached across and squeezed my hand. "You deserve someone who sees you as a partner, not a project." That conversation meant more to me than they probably realized. Knowing they'd seen it too. That I wasn't crazy or overreacting. That what happened to me was real and wrong. That's not freedom from responsibility. It's freedom to be a functional adult without being treated like I'm not one. I heard through the grapevine that Denise was dating someone new in Portland, already trying to implement systems with him. He was already pulling away. Some people never learn. Gloria was on her third divorce. Trish was still single, still giving advice nobody should take. The cycle continued elsewhere with new victims. A few weeks after running into Amy, another mutual friend mentioned seeing Whitney at a coffee shop on Capitol Hill. She looked tired and stressed, asked about me casually, trying to seem indifferent. She said something that stuck with me. The friend told me. She said, "I thought I was making us stronger. I thought having control meant having security. All I did was prove I was more insecure than I realized." She was in therapy, trying to understand why she thought treating someone like an employee was acceptable. Not to get me back. She knew that ship had sailed, but to figure out her own issues. The sad part? She genuinely loved me. She just loved her sister's validation more. By the time she figured out which one mattered, I was gone. I don't hate her. I don't even hate Denise. I feel sorry for them both. They genuinely believed that controlling someone equals loving them. They thought respect meant obedience and partnership meant hierarchy. Those 12 weeks I spent being trained taught me exactly what I don't want in life. Someone who sees me as a project isn't seeing me at all. I sleep better now. I do dishes because they need doing, not because someone's timing me with a clipboard. That difference matters more than I can explain. Last month, I went on a date with someone I met through friends. We had coffee at Pike Place Market, walked around, talked for hours. At one point, she apologized for checking her phone. "My roommate needs to know when I'll be home," she said. "Is that okay?" "Of course. That's just consideration. My ex used to get mad if I didn't ask permission for everything. It's nice to be with someone who gets the difference." I understood that completely. The difference between consideration and control, between partnership and management, between love and training. We're taking things slow. No pressure. No systems. No expectations except mutual respect and honest communication. Turns out that's all a relationship actually needs. Whitney wanted to train me into being worthy of her. What she never understood was that I was already worthy. I just wasn't willing to be treated like I wasn't. The note I left said everything that needed saying. Only dogs get trained. I'm not a dog. I'm a human being who deserves to be treated like one. When Whitney forgot that, I reminded her in the only way that mattered. By leaving. She got exactly what her sister had. The same ending. The same loneliness. The same realization that controlling someone isn't the same as keeping them. The difference is Denise still doesn't understand what she did wrong. Whitney is starting to. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's too little too late. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. About 4 months after I left, I ran into someone unexpected at a coffee shop in Fremont. Michael, Denise's ex-husband. I'd met him a few times years ago, back when they were still married. He recognized me immediately. "Brandon, right? You were with Whitney." "Still am, officially. Separated." Understanding crossed his face. "Let me guess. The training program." I stared at him. "How did you?" "Because Denise tried it on me. Chore charts, performance reviews, constant correction. She called it optimization. I called it hell." We sat down. He bought us both coffee. For the next hour, he told me his story. It was eerily similar to mine. The slow erosion of equality. The constant feeling of being managed instead of loved. The breaking point when he realized he'd rather be alone than live like that. "I tried to warn Whitney," he said. "Early on, before they moved here. I told her to be careful taking advice from Denise because Denise's methods don't work." She didn't want to hear it. Neither did I at first. I thought Whitney was just stressed. They're sisters. Denise got in her head, and Whitney trusted her. Tale as old as time. He shook his head. "I'm sorry you had to go through it. But I'm glad you got out. Some guys just take it forever." "You didn't." "No. And I've never regretted leaving. Best decision of my life." We exchanged numbers. Agreed to grab a beer sometime. As I walked back to my apartment, I felt validated in a way I hadn't expected. Someone else had lived through it. Someone else understood. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't throwing away something good over nothing. I was escaping something toxic before it destroyed me completely. I have a woodworking class in an hour and dinner plans with friends after. My schedule is my own. My choices are my own. My life is my own. That's all the victory I need. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who don't see your value. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just with clarity and self-respect. I walked away with both. And I've never looked back. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.